I want to tell you one of history's most incredible stories. Seriously, it's about a man who began with absolutely nothing. He didn't even own his own body, but he ended up teaching the most powerful man on the planet what true power really means. So let's get into how he did it.
Okay, so first, I want you to picture ancient Rome, but Rome at the absolute peak of its power. We're talking a city of giant stone palaces, gleaming gold statues, a place of absolute, total authority. It was a world of wild extremes, unbelievable wealth right next to the most brutal kinds of cruelty.
And this really shows you the social ladder back then. Way up at the top, you've got the emperor. This is a guy whose one word could mean life or death for anyone. And then, all the way at the bottom, the absolute bottom, you have the slave, who by law was considered nothing more than a living tool, an object. Our story is about how these two opposite ends of the world came together.
Our story really begins with a man named Epictetus. He was born a slave, and his life was just one hardship after another. At one point, in a moment of just pure, senseless brutality, his own master violently crushed his leg, leaving him crippled for the rest of his life. He literally started at rock bottom, broken in body, but, as we're about to see, not in spirit.
Now, the man who owned him was a real piece of work. His master's name was Epaphroditus, and he was a powerful secretary to the infamous Emperor Nero. So on one hand, Epaphroditus was incredibly cruel, but he also lived in constant fear, always tangled up in these dangerous political games. And he made one decision, one fateful decision that changed everything. He let his slave, Epictetus, go and listen to lectures by a famous Stoic philosopher.
And this was the turning point. See, while his master was totally consumed by all the external stuff, the fear, the ambition, the power plays, Epictetus was doing the exact opposite. He was turning inward. He was using this philosophy he was learning to build this untouchable fortress inside his own head, a place where no master could ever reach him.
Well, eventually, Epictetus was actually granted his freedom, but his struggles were definitely not over. A new emperor, a guy named Domitian, decided he was going to banish all philosophers from Rome, and just like that, Epictetus was exiled. He was forced to leave the only city he'd ever known.
But here's where his training really kicked in. Instead of seeing this as, just another terrible thing happening to him, he applied his core belief. He understood that our suffering doesn't actually come from the events themselves. It comes from the story we tell ourselves about those events. So, being exiled, that wasn't the end of his story. It was just a new chapter.
And this is how he started over. He shows up in a Greek town called Nicopolis with nothing. Nothing. No money, no friends, no home. But did he despair? Nope. He did the one thing he could control. He found a simple wooden chair, sat down out in the open, and just started to teach. He just opened a school.
And what happened next is just amazing. Word of his wisdom, it just started to spread like wildfire. Think about the image. This poor, crippled former slave, wearing a simple, rough coat, was becoming one of the most sought-after advisors in the entire Roman Empire. So much so that his wisdom reached the ears of the most powerful man on earth, the great Emperor Hadrian himself. And in this just truly unbelievable moment in history, the Emperor of Rome traveled all the way to Nicopolis, and he stood before Epictetus, asking for his advice on how to live a good life. The master of the known world, seeking wisdom from a man who used to be considered property.
So what was the lesson? What did Epictetus teach the emperor? Well, it was the exact same thing he taught everyone, whether they were nobles or beggars. He explained that real, lasting power, it's not found in a crown or on a throne. It's found in only one place, in mastering your own mind.
So why does this ancient story even matter to us today? Well, because that lesson is absolutely timeless. Think about it. There is so much in our lives we just can't control. Where we're born, random accidents, what other people do. And if we focus on those things, we're just going to feel like slaves to our circumstances. The real game is focusing on the things we can control, our beliefs, our judgments, and our reactions.
I want you to think of your mind as your own private empire. No one, not a tough boss, not a bad economy, not some random person online. No one can force you to think or feel something against your will. You and only you are the ruler of that inner world. And the very first step to ruling that empire is to accept the things you can't change. Now, this is not about giving up. Not at all. It's about being smart. It's about refusing to waste your energy fighting battles you are never going to win, so you can focus all that energy on the battles you can.
And when you combine that acceptance with taking total responsibility for your own reactions, something really powerful happens. You stop feeling like a victim of your life, and you become the true master of your life. That's the freedom Epictetus found, and it's a freedom that is so much deeper than any emperor could ever give someone. So, the story of the slave who taught an emperor really just leaves us with one final, very important question. It's not about what happens to you in life. It's about what you choose to do about it. Your mind, that is your territory. What empire will you choose to rule?
So, we've just walked through the incredible story of Epictetus, a man who found true freedom even while he was literally in chains. It's such a powerful lesson in resilience and the strength of our own minds. But, to really feel that strength, we need to look at the specific words that carry all that weight.
So let's do that now. Let's dive right into the language. We're going to break down some of the most important words from his story. Here's how we'll do it. I'll say the word, and I want you to say it right after me. Then we'll see how it's used in a simple sentence. Ready? Let's begin.
All right, our first word is limp. This word tells us about his physical condition, right? It was this constant, visible reminder of everything he'd been through.
Okay, now here's a sentence for you to repeat. After the long hike, Sarah had a slight limp because of a blister on her foot. So, you see, it just describes an uneven or difficult way of walking, often because of an injury.
Okay, next up, a word that's really at the heart of the story: status. This is all about where you stand in society, your social rank. It's exactly the kind of external thing Epictetus was telling us not to worry about.
And here's how we might see it today. Many people use social media to show off their social status. See, it's a perfect example of one of those external things we can get chained to, just like he warned.
All right, this next one is an action, a verb, and it's so important: to distinguish. This is the core of his whole philosophy, isn't it? Being able to see the difference between what's truly ours to control and, well, everything else.
Let's try it in a sentence. It is sometimes difficult to distinguish between a real diamond and a high-quality fake. So it's all about being able to see things clearly to make a good judgment. Oh, this is such a powerful word: invincible. This means you can't be defeated. And for Epictetus, this had nothing to do with being physically strong. It was about having a mind, a spirit that couldn't be broken.
Here's an example. With his new armor and training, the superhero felt invincible. But, as Epictetus taught us, maybe true invincibility doesn't require any external armor at all.
Okay, this next one is a huge idea in Stoicism: indifferent. Now, in this philosophy, this doesn't mean you just don't care about anything. It's more specific. It means you recognize that external things, like your reputation or your money, have no real power over your inner happiness and character. And here's how you might use it in a regular conversation. He was indifferent to which restaurant they chose. He was just happy to go out. It just shows that his happiness didn't really depend on that one particular choice.
All right, our next word, humble. This describes a simple, modest way of life without any showing off. It's exactly how Epictetus chose to live after he gained his freedom.
Here's an example. Despite being a world-famous scientist, he remained a very humble person. This shows us that being humble is really about your character, not just what's around you.
And another really important verb from the story: to grant. This means to officially give something to someone. In his case, it was his freedom that was granted.
In an everyday situation, you might hear this. The manager granted his request for a week off work. So you see, it's about being given something you've asked for,
like getting permission or being given an opportunity. And now for our last word, and it's a really beautiful one: dignity. This is all about being worthy of respect. Epictetus believed we can always choose to act with dignity, no matter what part we're playing in life.
Let's look at the example. Even though she lost the competition, she accepted the result with dignity. It's all about how you carry yourself, especially when things get tough.
Okay, so we have the words now. Let's use them to think a little deeper about what this story really means. And it brings us to this big question. Who was really the slave here? Was it Epictetus, the man in physical chains? Or was it that wealthy visitor who was totally chained to his fear of losing his status?
And that question leads us right to another one, doesn't it? What did Epictetus believe was truly ours? He argued it wasn't our money, our health, or what people thought of us. Nope, it was something much deeper. Something completely inside of us.
And finally, let's just think for a moment about his limp. How did this physical disability, something he had absolutely no control over, end up shaping his entire way of thinking about life? You know, it's such a powerful idea that sometimes our biggest challenges can become our greatest teachers.
So how does all this ancient wisdom apply to you right now on your journey with English? I want you to think of it like this. Epictetus' story is a mirror for your own. Maybe sometimes you feel chained by your accent, or you're afraid of making mistakes. But every single new word you learn, that's a tool for an internal kind of freedom. And once you have that, nobody can ever take it away from you. And look at this. It shows the connection perfectly. Epictetus couldn't control the chains on his body, but he could focus on what was his to control: his own character, his choices, his dignity. And it's exactly the same for you. You might not control how fast you become fluent, but you have 100% control over your effort, your dedication, and the courage you show every time you try to express yourself. That is where your real power lies.
So let's put this philosophy into practice. It's your turn. I want you to go to the comments and share two things. First, tell us something in your life that you find difficult to control. And second, tell us how you try to stay calm or manage a response to it. And here's the challenge. Try to use one of our new words in your answer, either indifferent or distinguish. I am really looking forward to reading your thoughts.